Okay. Just waiting on my guest, people. So give me a little moment. She's writing me now, so I'm trying to get her in here. Okay. So she's having some trouble with Safari. All right. Just bear with us, people. Yeah, I've used Chrome successfully. Let's see if I can help her get in. What's up, Ron Matthews? Ian, thanks for coming back through. Underrated Mind. What's going on? Yeah, that's what I told her, BGS. She has to use Chrome. Oh, she's on her iPad using Safari. I don't know if that's going to work. But I'm learning about this as I go. Young Jay, Black to Death, what's going on? So let me see. BGS, she's saying she's on her iPad. Yeah. All right. Now, this is my mistake, Nyota. It's saying that Safari doesn't work with StreamYards. I actually didn't know that. I would have told you earlier, so I apologize. So let's see. Let me just tell her. Okay. Okay, so she's trying Chrome. That should work. So bear with us, people, as we work through this. This is my fault. I'm learning this system as I go. Mr. Meach, what's going on? Educe. NJ Progressive Indie, what's happening? Eric Hudson, good to have you back. Our Business 2, what's up? Yeah, Mr. Meach, she's I let her know, so she said she's opening up Chrome, and that should bring her in shortly. Okay. Rashid L, what's going on? Young Manhood Channel, thanks for coming back through. I see a few of you that were here for the chat. So appreciate y'all coming back in. Sir Tice, thanks for that. Yeah, I told her about Chrome. She said she's opening it up, but see how this goes. I think she's doing it on her iPad, and I haven't really tried that. So hopefully she'll be able to get through. What's up, Artisan? BJ Onyx, what's going on? Just waiting to get through this technical piece. I will be sure to let future guests know how StreamYards works. I just opened up StreamYards to both Facebook and YouTube, so I'm kind of learning a few different things tonight. So I apologize. Um, okay. She must be downloading it. Okay, hold on. I don't see you. Hmm. That's weird. She says she's in, but she's not in the StreamYard area. Um, let's see. Okay, so she says she's close, so hopefully we can get past this stage of it. Yeah, really. Will you? I'm throwing in some deep water right now, learning as I go. But I think she's getting my message, but I think she's trying to access it through her iPad. I think she downloaded Chrome, but I still don't see her in here yet. Hmm. Okay. Okay, she's saying her screen is locked. Um, hmm. I don't know anything about Facebook mods. Um, I have to see. Okay. What's up, Richard Street, Roderick Bird, Ian in the house, Ricky Smith. I'm not sure. I think she said her screen locked up. Alonzo, what's going on? Yeah, I see you, Mr. Meach. I think you're right. I think that's where she is, making the decision to hit join, but then she said her screen locked up. Um, so I'm not sure what to suggest. So I don't know if she's rebooting it or what. Hmm. Okay. I think I see her, but I'm not sure if I can hear her yet. So bear with me one moment. Hmm. Let's see. It looks like she's close, but something's going on. Okay. Ian says his screen is acting funny. I'm not sure what's going on. Looks like something's happening. Um, let's see. She's in. Okay. Nyota, can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear anything. Okay, my earphones are working. We just need to get your mic to work. Um, Looks like we're getting closer, folks, but I'm not sure what it is just yet. Okay. Well, she's in the back chat, so we're getting close, but just got to see what's going on with her mic. Okay, you can't hear anything either. Let me see. Um, no, she says she can't hear anything, and her mic doesn't seem to be working. BGS. What's up, Cameron? Just trying to get set up here. Bear with us. We were closer than we were a minute ago. Um, uh, hmm. Let me see. Okay, I saw you muting your mic, but you unmuted it. So something's close, but I'm not sure what's going on. I am sorry, folks. I'm not sure what to really do as far as that. She's in the back chat, so she's in StreamYard, but she's doing it through her iPad, and I think that might be part of it. She She got into Chrome, so she's in StreamYard, but I can't hear her. She can't hear me. I'm not sure what's happening. So I might have to find another way to do this. Mr. Ball, I wish it was A+ work, but I'm messing up right now. Okay, let's see. Let me try something else here. I'm not familiar with Discord Crown Scrooge. Cameron says Susan Rice is blocking this. I'm going to try to see if I can do it through my phone. And I'm getting her number now, so we'll see if this will work. If not, I'll have to reschedule with her. But folks, this is all my fault. I didn't know about what to tell her. So yeah. Let's see here. So I'm not sure if this will work or not. Okay, so we're gonna try and jury rig something here. I'm gonna try to reach her on my phone, and if that doesn't work, we'll have to do it another way. So, okay.
Hello?
Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm going to see if my audience can. Otherwise, we might have to re-strategize this. Now, I need to apologize straight out because I didn't know. I'm still learning StreamYard, so I apologize for not telling
no
you
problem.
up front. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear her.
Hello?
Okay, I'm just waiting on them to respond.
Mic check, 1, 2.
They're saying you usually have to use, I guess you have to use Chrome, but it sounds like you're having some trouble. It's not working with your iPad, right?
No, it's not working with my iPad at all.
Okay, hit 1 in the chat if you guys can hear her. Okay, BGS says he can hear you. Okay, so looks like some people are writing in. They're saying it's cool. They can hear you. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. Doing much better now that I can hear you.
Yeah.
I'm going to plug this phone up to make sure we don't have that problem. Okay, so I'm hearing they can hear you loud and clear. So appreciate you guys' patience, and I appreciate your patience, Nyota. Thank you for joining us. I have been kind of a fan for the last couple of years. A good friend of mine named Marshall sent me some of your initial videos right after Brother Seals. That was I think around the first time I got a chance to hear you. And I got to say, I definitely appreciate your work. And I appreciate what you're doing on a couple of different fronts. So thank you for coming through today.
Thank you for having me.
Since we kind of doing this a little differently, if you could, can you tell my listeners about your work and where you've come from, how you came about to doing what you're doing. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Oh, wow. I began this journey many years ago. Um, Actually being on a path and not even knowing, that I was on this path. Um, I would say the common denominator in everything that I've done, my adult life has been creating platforms, creating outlets, controlling our narratives, um, and just pretty much the upliftment of Black people.
Okay. Okay. Um, can you speak on where you came up? Where are you from initially?
Oh man, I'm from everywhere. I'm an Army brat, so
Ah.
I've lived abroad. Um, I've lived with different cultures, different ethnic groups, different types of people, and I think that when you do that, when you live that type of life or grow up living that type of life, it gives you added perspective that people who don't have.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So can early on, because one of the things that you're known for is your work in terms of independent Black media. Um, and I kind of want to lead up to how you got to that, most especially for people who might be interested in doing so, and if they can learn a little bit about how you went about it, maybe that might help some people transition themselves. Can you tell us, what types of work led you into what you're doing with independent Black media now?
Well, my passions were always computers, technology, electronics, activism, politics, um, and just the history,
Mm-hmm.
reading a lot. And somehow I was fortunate enough at an early age to combine all of those. Even before, I mean, the technology, it's obviously different today than it was when I started out, like maybe 20 years ago. Um, Creating some of the first hip hop sites online. You look at hip hop online today, there are millions of sites. But back in the late '90s, early 2000s, there weren't many sites. Um, you could go to the Yahoo directory and see a list of like all the hip hop sites, or the main hip hop sites online. So it started, back then in creating an outlet, for our voices, here in St. Louis, as well as, voices of, I don't want to say marginalized, but I want to say voices that you stopped hearing, put it like that, in hip hop, as far as female artists, um, just, the difference in lyrical hip hop, and rap music and things like that. The activism, that played a huge part in it because social media, is organizing online. It gives you reach that you would never, have otherwise. So I started way back when, just combining those things. And when I did it, I was one of the first. So that made it pretty easy for the big boys to find me. And as a result, I've worked with everyone from Microsoft and Windows Media, the old MP3.com, which actually ushered in the MP3 technology, that we're using today. You got to remember, this was all 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
So that's kind of how I got to start. In creating those sites, that was something I was already doing, creating different platforms. So when Ferguson happened, it was just a logical thing to do. Create a platform in which we could control our own narrative, tell our own story.
Now, Now it seems that became clear that was something that needed to happen pretty early for you. I mean, you seem to the need for independent media, the need for an independent way for local residents and activists in Ferguson to speak up. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened at that time? I mean, what can walk us through as an activist in Ferguson?
I mean,
What happened?
No one was telling our story.
Hmm.
You know, when we were out, in the streets and fighting, standing back. I mean, standing up. Banging back against the beast. I mean, no one was telling our stories. But we were out getting tear gas, and you had people like D-Ray, on television saying that he started our movement. You had organizations like Black Lives Matter, just pretty much co-op what we were doing. You have to understand, like this was every day, every day, all night. So we weren't really embracing, media because we were in it, at that point in time. And I don't think anyone was even thinking about media or fame or being spokespeople.
Right.
We were just out there fighting the fight.
Okay. So what's some of the first things you started to notice? So Michael Brown is killed. There's outside of Ferguson, we're getting a buzz through media. What's happening on the ground very early on, and what are the first things you began to notice that made you look at this like there's something wrong?
Just the alliances and cliques that formed very quickly. I mean, literally the same day, that night, like out in front of Ferguson's police department. I was actually approached by the group that, orchestrated all of this. I was approached by them that night out in front of the Ferguson Police Department because this type of work is something that I was already known for. So it wasn't a surprise that they would come, at me. But at that point, just the fact that they were already thinking alliances and cooking up at that time, and we had no idea what was going on, no information really, and no one had spoken, for the family.
Okay. Your relationship with Darren Seals, how long had you known him? Were you just meeting him at that point, or did you already know him?
No, I didn't already know Darren. He and I met during Ferguson. I would see him. He stood out, so you couldn't miss him. He was very passionate. But it was like a quiet passion, a simmering rage. And I could just feel it whenever I saw him. We were both kind of doing the same work. But separately, he started out being more involved, with the nonprofits and going that route and just believing the whole, I'm not going to say Democratic Party, but definitely gave the nonprofits, a benefit of the doubt because, I mean, no one here, is part of a nonprofit. They never dealt with a nonprofit. These were all just regular people, coming out. So for them to trust, they're just, naively thinking that, these people are coming to help them. Me, on the other hand, I already had a background in media and marketing and things like that. And just looking at how the story was being told and the narratives were being crafted, whether they were coming out of Ferguson or the Democratic Party or just the local news, I mean, none of it spoke to what we were going through.
Okay.
And so at that point, I mean, just immediately you knew that we had to control our own narrative.
Okay. Now, what were some of the forces you were grappling with? Because you're actually the first person that I had ever heard use the term nonprofit industrial complex. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and how it worked and what you guys ended up having to grapple with?
Well, I didn't coin that phrase. I have no idea who did, but what the nonprofit industrial complex is basically is the system of nonprofit organizations, billionaire philanthropists, just huge amounts of money and resources that are supposed to go to people and communities that need it, being diverted, by these organizations who set themselves up as the middleman, so they get the money and the resources and it's supposed to trickle down, but it never does.
Okay.
Because they have overhead and they have all of these other expenses. These are just self-imposed expenses where they get to keep the money. And that's the scam until they run out of money, and then they move on to the next issue and repeat the cycle.
Okay. So how did that play out in Ferguson?
Oh, wow. I mean, everyone came in and set up shop. I mean, there are so many nonprofits. I mean, nonprofits were coming from LA, from New York. Some of them were using Ferguson in their name. Some of them use Ferguson activists, as the face. Some Ferguson protesters and activists even set up their own nonprofits.
Okay. So
it became, obvious really quickly that the movement was co-opted. It was bought and paid for, and people had different interests, than what we were fighting for.
Okay. So there, early on, there are multiple people vying for attention on social media, right? Can you speak to what some of the competing, individuals or groups might have been, or?
I mean, you can go back and look at Twitter timelines or Facebook profiles. It was pretty obvious. A lot of these people are still, they're still in the limelight. I mean, they're not front page news anymore. But you do see them get mentions and features every now and then. A lot of them are on the paid speaker circuit, or book tours, or selling CDs.
Okay. So going back to Darren, what did you witness? What began to happen with him? And tell us a little bit about some of the things you remember.
Actually, a lot of people don't know this. He and I went on one action together, and that was Nellie's Black and White Ball. That was the one and only action we ever did together, going down to the Lumineer. I'm not going to really get into detail about what we did, but we did make our presence felt. But the way I met Darren, when we actually started engaging and working together, was he hit me up on one of my pages. I think it was the STL Hip Hop page, and he was responding to some of my posts where I was talking about a lot of the co-option and the movement being hijacked by various nonprofits. And he, just hit me up, and he was telling me that, he just left, a nonprofit, for that very reason, and he just started talking to me about some of the things that he personally witnessed. And had to walk away from. And just, really from that point, it was only two of us really speaking out, at that point.
Okay.
So we just decided to come together and we started working together because he had access to certain things I didn't have access or firsthand knowledge of, and vice versa.
Okay.
So it worked out for us.
Okay. What kinds of things were you guys calling attention to?
Just pretty much demanding transparency and accountability. Millions of dollars were funneled into Ferguson. Money that is unaccounted for. Money that no one even wanted to acknowledge. Before Darren posted one of my posts, it was a PDF that I stumbled upon online and just really doing my research going back to the early days when Black Lives Matter first came. And in that PDF, it was pretty much an itemization of monies that had been allocated. I mean, just millions and millions of dollars, named, who the money came from, who it was dispersed to. Like I said, money before that time no one even knew existed.
Okay.
Darren posted that. People can go see it on the Hands Up Don't Shoot page on Facebook. He posted the PDF, and within a week, he was dead.
Wow. Now it's interesting you mentioned Hands Up Don't Shoot, because I'm on the outside, and everything I'm getting out of Ferguson is mediated through television. I wasn't even really watching it on Twitter. It was really more news media. But on the outside, I just remember like the chanting at one stage was Hands Up Don't Shoot, and the next thing I knew, it was transitioning to Black Lives Matter, which from the outside it was like, okay, well, you go to an action, chants change, but there was something more going on.
That's how they got us. That's how they reeled us all in. We didn't even know we were all complicit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how they got us, because it went from Hands Up Don't Shoot to I can't breathe.
Right.
So it seemed like it was a mantra that was going to change, depending on the circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how they put it out there, so that people wouldn't be on guard. It would just be something no one even thought about when they did it until it was too late.
Okay. Now, with Darren, I caught a lot of his tweets. I didn't see until later. Not quite. I mean, I caught it just before he passed. So I was kind of reading through some of his tweets, and they weren't even really through Twitter. People were sending me images of his tweets.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so he seemed, very unafraid, very outspoken about some of the things that were happening. That's one of the things that drew me to you as well, because I got the same impression. But can you talk about any of the specific observations that he began to articulate early on, or both of you did?
I mean, just pretty much, I don't even know how to explain this, but you just imagine standing and getting tear gas with people getting chased, by the National Guard, having armed weapons pointed at you, with a group.
Okay.
And then the next thing you know, that group is on the side of the opposition. I mean, nothing really prepares you for that type of just treason, because that's really what it felt like. We're out here, people put their lives on the line. There is this romanticized view of what people think is activism, doing for the sake of doing, or doing to feel better, or there are a number of reasons why people do. But for the most part, I mean, they have no idea of what it's really truly like the sacrifice that people really make. There are people still suffering, the effects today. I just had a young sister hit me up 2 weeks ago because she still has a case on her, and that's preventing her from getting employment. It's preventing her from living in certain areas. well, pretty much living what you want to live.
Okay.
Darren, like I said, with murder, his murder hasn't been solved. Like they're not even investigating for real.
Hmm.
You know, that there have been no updates. Everybody ran on, you know, Ferguson or Mike Brown or Darren Seals, and we still don't have any justice.
Right.
I mean, so what does that tell you about the activism?
Is there now? Can you speak at all to, you know, how he passed, what exactly happened? Because there were a number of brothers apparently that experienced something very similar.
Well, this is the murder capital, this region. Because of that, and because of the racial strife, and just the way St. Louis is, I mean, it's pretty much ripe for the picking. I mean, anything can happen here, you know, and everybody's suspect, and anything could be made to look like anything. So you can't believe what you're seeing. You can't believe what you're hearing. You know, it really takes. Wow, man. Like I said, a lot of people don't understand that it's more than surface, you know, with us here. The way I found out that Darren passed, we were talking, you know, all the time because we had a lot of projects in the works. We were launching handsupdon'tshoot.com. He was going to start his own YouTube platform, his own YouTube channel, which was going to be broadcast through STL Hip Hop, which he was going to be the face of.
Okay.
Actually, he was in the process of negotiating the deal with Rock Nation when this happened. But yeah, it was just a typical morning for me, you know, getting up and doing my post. And I hit him up because he mentioned to me that someone wanted to interview the two of us. And I was like, fine, you know, we'll talk about it tomorrow. So when tomorrow came, you know, and I'm posting my post, I hit him up. I text him, you know, like letting him know, you know, get at me, you know, so we could talk about, you know, the appearance, you know, in the show and not. And he didn't hit me back, which at first was a little strange to me because normally he would hit me right back.
Okay.
But then there were some times where he was busy, you know, so it didn't really. I didn't think anything was up. And the comment, it came. The news to me came in a comment of one of my posts, and the comment just said they killed Darren Seals last night. And I remember reading that comment, and I had to read it like 5 or 6 times,
right?
Because I couldn't understand it. You know, I kept thinking, what do they mean they killed Darren Seals? I mean, it just never really dawned on me. And then I just felt this dark energy that just really came across. Because I realized that one of the articles that I was going to post and talk about actually was about a body being found that had been shot and set on fire. And they really didn't give any other details.
Wow.
So I'm sitting here, you know, about to post this story and,
wow,
you know, still waiting for details. And had I not seen that comment on my post, I would have just walked right into that story.
Not even knowing that was about him.
Not even knowing, not even having a clue.
Wow. Now, one of the things that, you know, you've let me know over the last couple of years, and you've repeated this in different ways, but you let me know this isn't over. It's never ended. It's continued. I think I think one of the reasons that you've been so adamant about that is people assume that it is, right? That everything is just everything.
Well, that's because the media, we don't have the media attention we had before. But this is probably as real as it's been. You know, everything that the media was there for was hype.
Right.
They pretty much ran with whatever narrative. It was pretty much clickbait. Now it's real, and it's really real. Like I said, so many people are still feeling the ramifications. There are people who were elevated, and just crashed.
Yeah.
Like totally crashed. I mean, it's like pulling the rug, watching someone get the rug pulled from underneath them.
Just even the psychological trauma after all of this.
Oh, the psychological trauma is always there because it's an ongoing battle. It's every day, and they're pushing back. This system is pushing back, and there is no help. You have no real allies. You have people who have their own interests, and you may share a common interest. And sometimes the common interest they have with you is exploiting your situation for their benefit.
Right. So what do things look like? Hold on. I think I lost her. I'm going to reconnect with her. Bear with me.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Everything cool?
I don't know if that was mine. It may have been.
No, it might have been mine. But tell us where, and I'm going to go back in a moment, but since we're here, tell us where things are now with activism in the area. Where do things stand as it is now?
Well, we have a fractured activist community, and I don't even like to use the word activist. It's so overused, and it doesn't adequately describe what people like me are doing. There's a lot going on. What people have to understand, and this is about Ferguson, but it's also beyond. There are all types of ways to impact. And we have to start creating our own models. We can't just simply follow the Democratic Party model or the NPIC model and think that that's going to bring change. We have to create our own models. We have to create our own systems and institutions. All of this is vital, and that's pretty much what I've been doing post-Ferguson. Right now, we have several platforms in the All-Black network. You know how they have the alt-left and the alt-right, we're the alt-black.
Okay.
And it's pretty much alternative Black perspectives because we don't all think the same. One of the platforms is altblacknews.com. It's like a Google News, like centralized location for unapologetic Black news and Black voices. Okay. Such as my own shows and podcasts like yours. Where we're just free to talk, and have conversations without worrying about being labeled Black identity extremist or Russian bot. Right. Where we can control our own narrative because, you could listen or watch the mainstream media, even left-leaning media, even the leftist media you can find, and you compare that with unapologetic Black media. I mean, there's nothing like it, because it's our perspective.
Okay. Absolutely.
So we have that platform. We have All Black Radio, which just launched on Alexa. You can check it out there. Alexa, start All Black Radio.
What would you say to people like myself, who only got to hear about this from the periphery, and we're obviously still grappling with the conditions that produced, the response. I don't have another word for the activism, but what would you say to people who are still interested in doing something, but kind of haven't kept up the way you have with all of the changes. You mentioned all the different platforms and groups and perspectives. So for people on the outside of that, who are interested, or even people like my students, for example, that are, but we're in Fresno. You know what I mean? We have no idea what the ins and outs are. What would you say to people who are on that periphery, who still want to contribute, but don't know where the established channels are, or don't know what to do?
The first thing is just really, study, do the research, and that's one of the reasons, I launched Black News, to give people a place where they could go. Because right now what's happening pretty much in the world of activism is, people have that energy, they come into it with that energy, and we have nothing for them. The only thing that's established for them is the Democrat Party and the nonprofits. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We have no alternative. We have to create the alternative. We are the alternative.
Okay.
We have to create that lane.
Well, one of the things that definitely became real popular were the identity politics that played out. It did. Can you speak to how that impacted, Ferguson and what was going on at that time? Can you speak to where that ended up going?
Oh wow! When the identity politics started, that actually started with BLM, and the way they did it was just pretty much causing rifts, between the old and young, black and white, gay and straight, just pretty much with everybody, because before, and a lot of people may not know this because during this time they probably weren't paying attention. They probably didn't really start paying attention until Black Lives Matter just really ran with it. But we have a pretty solid coalition of all types of people.
Mm.
There was no dissension. Everyone was out there, for a genuine reason. That there was nothing to take out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Once Black Lives Matter came and we started feeling the effect of all of these rifts, then they broke down into little cliques. You had just the regular Ferguson activists. You had the Ferguson activists that worked with Black Lives Matter.
Well,
you had, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You had all these different little groups, and what they did was start propping people up from these groups, whether it was the LGBT community, just Black feminists, elders. They pretty much got away from the young people that took to the streets, and they started just pretty much changing the face. And that's when you start seeing people like D-Ray and Sean King and Patrice Cullors.
Okay.
See, people like that.
And I remember even on the outside what you're talking about, because when I would watch the news, I saw people of all ages.
Mm-hmm.
You saw all kinds of different kinds of people that were involved, that were marching, and it seemed like it was like just natural, like organic. It just kind of came together and people
Mm-hmm.
jumped in. But then even on the outside, it seemed to change. And then I started hearing these conversations filtered through, and I didn't know how to word it at the time, but I think what you described earlier was very apt, right? There was this nonprofit kind of narrative to it. There were certain types of people, and what I began to see was even a kind of group of educated, not from Ferguson, people that had come in, and the narrative began to kind of change, but I couldn't describe it from the outside, and I wasn't able to go. So I was like, okay, I don't fully know what's happening, but it feels different. And that was
different, and that's what Darren, Fields, and I were calling out. That's what we were drawing attention to. That's what he was talking about. in the days up to his murder.
So it was a kind of a hijacking of the narrative.
It wasn't hijacking.
Mm.
The hijacking of Ferguson. The hijacking of the Justice for Mike Brown movement. You know, the hijacking of Hands Up, Don't Shoot, but even, you know, more important, it was just the hijacking of people who stood. You know, this was one time Black people stood up.
Yeah.
And they were ready to face tanks. They did face tanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they responded, you know, with a fury that has not been seen, you know, in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that to suggest, you know, violence or the destruction of property is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like MLK says, the riot is the voice of the unheard.
Right. Right. So some of those narratives that we heard, you know, back in '68 about that Malcolm even talked about, right? That the protests, the marches, all of that began to change, and you had a kind of cream in the coffee kind of element, but it took a different spin with this that I'm not sure if too many of us were ready for. You know, where you see people who are relatively young and look like you, but have a whole different paradigm. That was a kind of new dimension to this. Is that accurate, or is that accurate, or is that a little different?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Oh, I said, you know, it took a different spin because you know, when we hear about movements being hijacked, like if you talk about, you know, the March on Washington in '68, you know, you hear about it in terms of white liberals, you know, certain elements here and there, but you really don't expect it to be relatively young Black folk. I mean, that seemed to be one of the major shifts that took place that none of us were really, you know, especially on the outside, were ready for.
They learned, they evolved, we didn't.
Break that down.
So that's what happened. You know, they realized they would have to send people who look like us. And we weren't ready for that. People here were not ready for that. People here genuinely felt that, you know, they came to save us. You know, that was the initial response. I mean, they were welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were deferred to. They, I was kept out of meetings.
Okay.
You know, people like me who are from here, you know, who are voices.
Kept out of meetings by people who'd never even been there before.
Exactly. Because they knew that we wouldn't go for this. I mean, I already turned them down the first night, so they already knew I wasn't going for any of this. Like I was going to be a problem. Darren came to find out it was a problem. You know, and to this day, you know, I'm considered a problem.
Mm-hmm. Right, because you haven't gone with the kind of party line about it.
Well, I haven't gone down the party line or even race. You know, you're expected to just, you know, get in line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for any and everything involving race. You know, and sometimes that blinds people from the enemies within.
Right. So now all of a sudden there's this upheaval in terms of race, gender, sexual orientation, class, education, all of this happening in this small microcosm. So
yes, all of that happening.
So now you've also stayed very current, and you've been very outspoken about the current political figures and the different kinds of things that they're into, especially in St. Louis. Can you tell us about, you know, first the people that people should be paying attention to based on the work they're doing, the credible work they're doing? And then can you point us to people that we really need to examine for the kind of stuff they're trying to get away with?
There are so many people here who are putting in work. I mean, you couldn't even name all the people who are putting in work, because a lot of these people, they do it, they don't do it for the fame, you know, they do it unselfishly.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows who they are, you know, they do it out of pocket. They do what they can every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every day they wake up and they fight this battle. So there are many, many, many people like that who never get the recognition.
Right.
You know, who never, ever get the recognition. People can recognize them. I mean, people here know who these people are, you know, because they're putting in the work, and they've been putting in the work. You know, a lot of them even before Ferguson, even before Mike Brown, you know, they were putting in work because this is what they do, you know, this is their passion. Right. And those people are relatively easy to find.
So for those of us,
because we're here, but I was going to say, but for people who aren't here,
right?
You can go on the STL Hip Hop page, the All Black News page, or the Hands Up Don't Shoot page.
Okay.
I'll be highlighting some of these people because they could definitely use support. And I'm sorry, that was a two-part question.
Well, yeah, the other side.
To ignore.
What'd you say?
Was that it? What was the other part? The people that they should
watch out for? No, the people they should watch out for. You've kept up, and you've kept many of us up online with, you know, the kind of scandals or things that should be considered scandals that most of us don't even know about. You've been very adamant and outspoken about that. Can you tell us about some of that?
Just pretty much people who are in the limelight all the time. People who've had life transformations. You know, some of them you can even say makeovers, like complete makeovers.
Wow.
People who some of these political dynasties, you know, that have been around for many generations, they pass down these seats like their inheritances.
Mm-hmm.
Just people who sell you on voting when there's been so much corruption exposed in the electoral process here.
Okay.
Like there's no credibility. I mean, none. You know, they can't even say with accuracy that the people who are in power were ever even, you know, elected for real, because they've had all types of voter scandals.
Wow.
And there's no investigation, so you have no idea. You don't know. And see, that's another reason why we need our own media, because we need to be able to investigate these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, you know, the murders of unarmed Black people, you know, but we need to investigate, you know, all of the things that impact us. We have to stop taking their word for everything. I mean, come on, how are we taking their word? How are we relying on their data?
Right. Right. Before we close out, can you tell us there was a question in the comments that I want to get to from Ian Graves, and he asks, is there any takeaway as to what we should expect in the future, in the very near future, coming from some of these oppositional forces, especially as we head into, you know, yet another presidential election? What should we be mindful of? What should we take, you know, be considerate of? What would you point us to?
I would point you to the people that they're using who look like us. You know, Malcolm said that these people were not used for the Black Revolution, they were used against the Black Revolution. And if you look at what you're seeing right now with some of the Black news anchors, Black celebrities, different people who are being used. I mean, whether you're talking about, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, Cap, for Nike, or Jay-Z for the NFL, or Joy Reid, to spread the narrative of MSNBC, Charlemagne the God, for the Breakfast Club. These are like huge entities. We don't own or control these entities, and that's the problem. So they're going to throw a lot of, well, I'm not going to say a lot of, well, yeah, for now, at least until November, after the election, it'll probably, we'll see a lot less of it, but they're going to come with a lot of black, so-called black news.
Okay.
Voices, shows, channels, black CNN, but that's only so that they can control the narrative. The narrative will be the same. The faces may be chocolate, but the narrative is going to be the same.
Right.
So that's why people need to support new black media, independent black media, unapologetic black media. And if anyone wants to support what I'm doing, and for more information, they can go to altblacknews.com or email me at info@altblacknews.com.
Info@allblacknews.com. Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. I really want to thank you for taking the time. I know you got a lot on your plate, both with your work and just with life in general. And again, I need to extend an apology to you as far as the technical issues. I do apologize, but I really appreciate your patience and your willingness to come talk about all of this, because I know it's, from communicating with you in the past, I know that this for you it never ended. For a lot of people, they just went, turned the TV off, went another way, and maybe occasionally come back to it. But this has been daily for you.
Well, when a lot of people used to say initially, I used to hear this from people during Ferguson and shortly after Ferguson, that, Ferguson is everywhere. And what they meant by that is, we all experience the same things. And to a degree, that's true. But that's to a degree. When you're chased by tanks and soldiers, when you have assault weapons pointed at your head, when you're tear gassed,
right.
It becomes really personal. I mean, you can't. There is nothing in me. I don't know how not to fight back. Okay.
And then to have friends and comrades die arbitrarily and nobody even looks into it.
Yes, I mean, that's not something you walk away from. It's not something that, okay, because the cameras are gone, or because, I got this grant.
Right.
It's always on. It's on until we win.
Real quick, did you know any of the other activists that had been killed? Did you know them like you knew Darren, or was it just
No, it was so many people out there.
Yeah.
I didn't know like everybody. And that's another thing I want to speak about, because people think they see certain people, but that's a small sampling of a huge group of people that were out there. A huge group of people that were out there. So some of these people I didn't know. I may have had 1 or 2 degrees of separation. Maybe I knew someone who knew them, or they were related to someone I knew.
Right.
But personal interaction with, no.
So you knew of them and you knew of their work, and then you saw all of this happen.
Some of them I became aware of them because of what happened. Some of them I became aware of because, like I said, I know someone, one of their family members. Or maybe some of them, I've had people reach out to me. But the one, the only one I had a personal connection with was Darren.
Right. Well, again, thank you for coming in, and I really appreciate it. My listening audience appreciates it, and we're definitely going to support you. So much appreciation to you.
Thank you for having me and giving me this platform to talk about Darren. It just seems like time has stood still. We haven't had any updates. Wesley Bell ran on being the anti-McCullough. He ran on Ferguson on reopening the investigation into the murder of Mike Brown. And I was probably the only person at that point in time advocating that he launch an investigation into the murder of Darren Shields, and he's done none of that. He's done none of that. This is one of the people they propped up as a reform prosecutor, who they will tell you came out, of the activist movement, the Ferguson movement, and we're not moving.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for the update, and you're gonna hear from me soon, sister. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
All right, people. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for coming in. Shout out for everybody in the chat. I think if somebody could type it in the chat, I kind of have my hands full, but she pointed to blackaltnews.com, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but definitely support, keep up with what's going on, because these are the kind of issues that impact our communities, regardless of our politics, regardless of what we want to identify with, they still impact us nonetheless. So, shout out to Nyota for her work. Definitely shout out to Darren Seals. I wish I could have really understood the gravity of the moment before he passed. But I am one of many that's going to definitely shout the brother out and make sure he doesn't go forgotten. So let's continue to support that if we can. And like the video, share, subscribe. You can check out the panel discussion earlier today on the show Power with BGS, Angry Man, Ron Wills. I think we had a good time doing that. So support that. Check it out. And other than that, you guys will hear from me next week on Interlight Radio. I'll be doing a live show Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And I will post it to YouTube if you're not able to catch the live show. But also thanks. I think it's Willia 3R. I don't know how to pronounce that, but check out Darren Seals if you're not familiar, or if you're kind of casually familiar. Actually look him up. You can find some information from his Twitter posts. You can find information on YouTube, of course. Check him out if you're not familiar. Definitely outspoken, fearless brother. And I want to definitely shout that out. All right. Y'all have a good night. Much appreciation for your support. And I'll be seeing you next week. Peace.